Hey guys, what's going on? It's Julian. Welcome to this Pathetic Vlog episode. I'm on my own today because this is kind of a different thing. We've never done an episode like this. I've never done anything like this, so we're going to test it out. Hopefully it goes well. I wanted to walk you through some of my vocal tips, both for preparation and for actually recording and for performing vocals. I hope this all goes well. If you have any questions in the comments, leave them there, and we're going to get started. So I don't always do this, but I sometimes do before I record vocals for anything. I usually go with, where is it? Here we go. Some throat coat tea by Traditional Medicinals. You can find it in most places for fairly cheap, and it works like a dream. It makes your throat go from feeling semi-crappy to pretty good. And I definitely recommend doing one of these. Make it a routine, honestly. Maybe not on a daily basis, but like sometimes it's just healthy, you know. I also have to make food, so I'm gonna do that. That doesn't really have any correlation with vocals though. I did all those shots while simultaneously cooking, and I would be very happy if I never had to do that again. Sorry in advance about the shitty lighting. I'm about to set up the lights in a second, but we're just gonna put up with it for this part. I shouldn't have to say this, but I don't want any crazy people in the comments telling me something I said was wrong or something was incorrect or I'm improperly giving out advice. So just a disclaimer really quick. I'm not a professional, blah, 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 blah. Don't trust anything I say, blah, 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 blah. Don't get mad at me if something I suggest doesn't work for you, blah, 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 blah. There we go. Got that out of the way. As far as the preparation part goes, if you want to be really pretentious about it and call it that, I don't really have that many abnormal things that I do. Like before a show, sometimes I'll go in the car and I'll warm up on my own just so I don't have to worry about people around me judging me for screaming in the middle of a room for no reason. So I'm currently in my car about to warm up, but other times I just don't care if it's loud during a set. I'll even warm up during a band's set, like in the crowd, because no one can hear me anyway. But I won't do screams, like, because people will hear that. But I'll do, like, you know, lip buzz is like a totally gonna slow that down and it's gonna look hilarious. Like, I'll do a major scale with lip buzzes, I'll do a major scale with just regular chest voice. I'll even do some falsetto stuff like a like, even though I don't really use falsetto that much during our set or when I record, I think it really helps because it prepares your entire voice, not just one specific part. Some other warm-ups I do are pretty common, like the classic siren thing, like the whoa, like that kind of stuff. When I'm getting ready to scream, I will definitely do a shouty thing, which is something that goes a little bit beyond the scope of what I want to do in this video, but but it's kind of just practicing putting the proper amount of support behind screams. So getting your body used to putting that pressure and making that energy come out of you. Hey! Hey! Yay! Hey! Yay! At the end of the day, the tea thing is great, especially throat coat is awesome. Stay away from caffeinated teas. Caffeine is dehydrating. You can find all this kind of information on the internet, though. This isn't anything crazy that I'm telling you. As far as food goes, I don't really get affected by too many things other than dairy. I stay away from dairy on a regular basis, even when I'm not singing, just because it affects me a lot worse than I think it affects other people. I don't know how it affects other people. But yeah, water is definitely the most important thing. That's number one thing. You should always be drinking water, even when you're not singing. Keep your body hydrated, keep your body ready to perform, keep your body ready to do things that are more demanding than you might think they are, if that makes sense. Now it's time to set up for the actual vocal portion of this video. My arm is too bright, go away. Yeah, okay, I think we're good. So just another disclaimer I'm gonna throw out there. I did take singing lessons for a couple of years. I don't take them anymore right now because I'm at school and it's really complicated. But I will definitely say that a lot of the things that I learned in singing lessons, which had nothing to do with screaming, actually do have a lot to do with screaming. So that's just something, a little tidbit I wanted to throw in there for anybody that's thinking about taking singing lessons. Even though they're not sure if singing lessons will help them, because they just want to learn how to scream. They're not really very interested in singing. Another thing that I picked up from singing lessons is that the tips that I'm going to give you, the tips that any vocal teacher is going to give you, are super duper duper interpretive. In other words, I could give you a tip like breathe from your diaphragm, or you're not hitting those notes because you're not supporting with your diaphragm, sing from your chest instead of your throat. I could give you all those types of tips, but if you're not practicing, if you're not really actively trying to figure out your voice, figure out what it feels like when you're singing from different points, which is kind of a weird way of saying it, but you get what I mean. You just have to figure everything out for yourself so that something that a teacher is going to say or someone on YouTube will make more sense to you. Since there's so many lessons about that and I don't really know how to teach it, to be honest, I'm not really going to go into that territory because you could find that in an infinite amount of other places. What I am going to teach, though, is something that I do believe is pretty concrete, which is loudness. Loudness is a pretty important aspect of screaming. It's a really good way to measure whether or not something that you're doing is wrong, in other words, painful. Obviously, pain is a pretty good way of telling whether or not you're doing something right. But another way to do it is to look at a waveform from your scream. What do I mean by that? Okay, so say your screams are way too loud and they're significantly louder than they should be. If the waveform is all over the place, if the waveform is really small, that's a signal that it's too quiet. You want to make sure your waveform is nice and even. Obviously, you're not going to be able to really compare yours to mine because you could be a bit louder than me, but you're going to be able to tell by looking at the waveform to some degree what's going on. Something else I wanted to talk about to really put that more into better perspective for you, maybe if you're coming from guitar or from some other instrument, is comparing the voice to when it's screaming to a distorted guitar amplifier. So what happens when you have a guitar and you're plugging it into an amplifier that's distorted and you mic up the speaker on that amplifier and you put it into Pro Tools or whatever DAW you're working with? Well, the waveform is going to look fairly compressed, unless you're playing a lead or a solo with lots of single plucks, then it'll obviously look very transient heavy. But in the normal realm of things, if you're just like playing strumming power chords and stuff like that, you're going to end up with a pretty even waveform. And in the case of screaming, surprisingly this is the case. You think of something as screaming very unstable, very aggressive, very loud, very angry, but in reality, it's really not all that crazy once you get the waveform and once you record it and you're actually properly applying that compression to your voice in a way that is not going to damage you. As a result, I'm going to do a few things in this video. One of those things is I'm going to perform a scream that I believe is way too loud and feels very strained. So yeah, I'm going to show you the waveform for a scream that's too loud. I'm also going to let you hear what that sounds like. I'm going to show you a waveform for a scream that is too quiet, and I'm going to let you hear what that sounds like. And lastly, I'm going to perform what I believe is a properly compressed scream, and I'm going to let you see and hear what that is like. There will be no processing at all on the way in or in the box on my computer. There's going to be nothing. It's going to be completely raw. I'll even show you the signal chain that I got going on. Just an SM57 into my Scarlett Focusrite 2i4. If you have both of those things, you could literally follow along with me. I'll even show you where the input gain is at so that you could set it the exact same way that I have it and you could see where you're at compared to me. I'd be really curious to know. So if you're really interested in this stuff, please reach out to our band account and shoot us a little picture of a waveform or a demo if you want some advice. I'm always open to that stuff. So here is the super duper loud scream.
Yeah! Yeah! Ow! Oh my! No! No! Yeah!
Here's a super duper quiet scream. I can't even do that. Oh my god. And here's what I believe is a good level scream.
Yo!
Okay, so now that we got all that out of the way, let's look at these waveforms. So, just checking in on the scream loud one. Let's focus on that really quick. Right away, you could see so many transients. Not that transients are a bad thing, but these are very dramatic transients. Like one right here, one right here. Overall, it's a very, very uneven looking waveform all around. Yeah, so you see there's a lot of falls and rises, lots of rises and falls, lots of this and that. But one thing you will definitely notice about the Scream Quiet is that there is no waveform, pretty much. And that's a pretty good indication that you're doing something wrong when you're doing something into a microphone and nothing's showing up visually. And if you have to turn it up 36 dB on the clip gain to get anything to show, you should probably figure something out. And lastly, we have the Scream Good track. And as you could see, there are some transients, but they're a lot weaker than the ones that were on the Scream Loud track. So for example, if you compare this part right here to this, it's definitely a lot more even, and nothing was changing on the way in, no compressing, no anything, and that really demonstrates how the human voice can act like a guitar amplifier that has distortion on it in a way. You know, look how even all this stuff is. Like, it's like that one was a little shaky right there, but that was probably just because of me. For the most part, very even stuff, and it looks good all around. Especially right here, I think that's where I did some lows. The lows are especially even. But yeah, that's just a little guideline thing that I wanted to share with you guys, because I've done my own share of research online for screaming tutorials back when I was starting, and there wasn't a whole lot that I was looking into that was helping me out. And this is something that you could do for super cheap. Even if you don't have a DAW, if you don't have a microphone, you could do this on your phone. You could use a voice memo, and you could just make sure you set the phone far away from your mouth so that you're not clipping, because those microphones are very sensitive. But this is a really good way of doing that. So that's about it for this episode of the Pathetic Vlog. Hope you dug it. Hope you got something out of it. Leave a comment below. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Do all that jazz. And yeah, see you soon.
I know you know what we let him get away with. Never show when you love blow us a kiss.